Welcome everybody to another Boldcast reaction. I'm Carson.
I'm Lindsay.
And this is our first reaction to... Fuck, I keep doing it. I did it last video too. And this is our first reaction to God of Highschool, episode 1. What happened last time? No, yeah, you guys saw our OP yesterday. We just recorded it right now. We're going right into the episode. But we wanted to talk a little bit about what we're thinking about going into the show. So there's going to be a slightly longer intro, but we're going to give you guys the reaction if you sit tight. Basically, we talked about it a little bit, but we just talked in between videos, between recording the OP and now we're recording this. And I feel like this show, judging from just the OP, that's all we've seen so far. We know the premise, we've seen the characters, we don't know anything about the characters, but we've seen the OP. I feel like this show isn't trying to lie about what it is, or isn't trying to like rope people in with hype. This show knows that it is hype. That's the whole point of the show. And I'm willing to go along with that. My problem, and I think our problem with Tower of God, was that it had a great story, and it had a great world and characters, and really intricate plotline, but they were trying to fake like it was a super hype story. Even though it wasn't super hype, all the crazy effects, all the music was good, but it was like, they were trying to like convince everyone that this was super hype by like having people jump around and having explosions where there's no explosions and huge crazy like lights and effects and wind blowing everywhere in all the fights, when really it wasn't really about that. It was about these characters and their journey and their goals and what happens to people as they achieve their goals. With this, judging from the opening, I feel like, because the reason we're comparing them is because there's a lot of crossover, and a lot of the same people, a lot of you guys who've been asking us to watch this show are sort of carried over. A lot of you guys liked our reactions, or at least watched our reactions to Tower of God when those are coming out. This show doesn't, like, I'm sure it has a lot to offer in terms of its story and characters, and I'm sure as we go along we'll get more attached, but just going into this, it's selling me on what it is. I can tell that from the opening. It's not trying to put up a facade like it's some great, like it's some super hype show with incredible animation and colors and stuff like that. That's what it is, and it's showing me that through the opening. It's whether it has a story or not is not the point of focus, or at least it doesn't seem like that from this opening, and that's not what it's not expecting me to come into it with that expectation. It wants me to get hype. It wants me to experience the action and sort of get involved in this story. So I'm interested. That's what I'm thinking going into this. That's sort of my thoughts.
And it's about fight. Like the description literally says it's about like fighting. It's like a competition. Yeah. Whereas with Tower of God, it was about like the journey. Mm-hmm. But they hyped up the fights. Yeah. For
trying to like rope people in.
Reasons. If you want to know our full thoughts on Tower of God, if you're new to our channel, you can go watch our Tower of God episode 13 discussion. Mm-hmm. We're still working on getting the Vimeo links for all of our Tower of God videos up. We had to cut out our reactions
because we got a strike on one of the videos. Yeah. And for those who don't know, a lot of people are asking like, oh, we'll just upload like a clear reaction to Vimeo for like extra or for whatever. The problem with that is, and this is just real quick before we get into this, the problem with that is we can only upload a certain amount of video a week, and we haven't, if we already have the pro version of Vimeo, which is like really expensive. We could get the larger one, but we aren't making that enough money to justify that on YouTube, so it's not worth it to us to spend that money. Eventually we'll get those videos up, but for those wondering why we don't upload more stuff to Vimeo, that's why. But yeah.
Also, yeah, so if you want our discussions for any Tower of God episodes, those are all up, still on our channel. We have a huge discussion for episode 13, the last episode, where we talk about the series as a whole, what we thought about it, our problems with it, what we really liked about it. If you like Tower of God as well, it seems like there is a lot of crossover between. And
we had a lot of good discussions with Tower of God, so even without the reactions, especially the last episode, we had like an hour-long discussion about our thoughts on the series, about whether we would watch it if there was a season 2, what our whole impressions on it, and our views of it sort of evolved over. I know this is a God of Highschool video, but we're just saying this because a lot of people are either going to find this because they like God of Highschool, or a lot of people like our Tower of God videos, or a lot of people don't know about our Tower of God videos or our struggles with that series, both in terms of copyright and just in terms of plot and story. That's all there. You can go check that out. You can get a more detailed breakdown, but basically, we're excited to watch the show.
Yeah, we weren't sure about it. For those of you who are our subscribers who have been asking us to watch this show, and we have said no. That was for multiple reasons. Our schedule, if you've been subscribed for like a few weeks at this point, you'll see our schedule has just been
chaotic.
Super chaotic, changing all the time, an absolute mess. We wish that it wasn't, but first of all, we were like, oh, we'll just do ReZero. People are asking for God of High School, not sure about that because of the Tower of God copyright issues. And then we decided, okay, well, we'll sort of do a compromise and we'll add Origairu to our series because that's one of Carson's favorite shows. I really like that show. It's a good fit for our channel.
For sure.
We thought, okay, we'll do that. Come to find out that show is even worse for copyright and they will strike you even for just talking about the show.
Apparently it's like literally the worst show out there that you can react to. I've never heard of a show that does that for just talking about it.
So even if you don't include any footage, even if you just do a discussion or a review, they are still going out there and striking people for doing that. So we thought, okay, 100% not worth the risk. We already have that Tower of God strike on our channel, as we already said. And if they're going to strike us for even just talking about it,
not worth it.
Not worth it at all.
So there was the copyright concerns there, but also we felt like we also have Demon Slayer on our channel. You can go check that out if you're interested. We weren't as crazy about Tower of God as everyone else was, and the fact that we got a lot of spoilers in our comments for Tower of God. A lot of the fan base there really loves to spoil. They like to spoil without like trying to justify that they're not spoiling, when really they just give a spoiler based on something that they cut out in the episode and they're probably going to reintroduce later. That was a whole thing. There were a lot of reasons why we figured that we wouldn't like this show. However, we just watched the opening, and like we said, it doesn't seem like it's trying to, like, rope us in. It doesn't seem like it's trying to hook us with something that isn't the show. So that was our problem with Tower of God. It had a great story, it had decent fights, but they were trying to, like, hook you in with something that wasn't even the show. The show was the characters and the world and the mysteries and the plot lines and the schemes and the conflict, but they were trying to like make it about the hype and the fights and all this shit. But they didn't need that. For us, it cheapened the show when they would stoop to that level to try and appeal to like our base instincts of, oh, like there was a little white laser that took out that chick's eye. Turns out it's an explosion in the show and it's huge and fucking crazy, and somebody throws a rock and it fucking whips all the shit around the room and cloth goes flying and all this stuff. It felt like I was a baby. It felt like they were treating me like I didn't have a brain. It felt like they were treating me like it felt like they thought that I wouldn't be like entertained by what they had to offer unless they gave me, like, they jingled keys in front of my face and like shined some light in my eyes. Like, that's what it felt like. So, and it doesn't need to be a super intellectual experience, and that's why we're interested in watching this show, is because it's not trying to sell us for something else. It's selling us on what is actually happening, and it's hype, and it's fights, and it's dope shit, and that's totally fine. I don't need to, like, be super analytical and crazy about everything all the time. If I know this is what we're getting into, and it looks like it's doing it well, and judging from the OP, it looks like it's going to deliver on what it's promising, I'm fine with that, dude. That sounds awesome.
All this to say is that we did not originally intend on doing this show, but because of all that other stuff, we've decided that it's actually maybe for the best. And we also weren't sure about our workload, how much more we could handle, because back when we were double posting literally every single day,
we got burnt
out really bad. But we had no choice because we had to finish ReZero. So
we held in there for a while, but eventually it just became like, we're only doing this, and it's not good.
So yeah, we're excited to add this. If you're into seasonal anime and you like ReZero, we also react to ReZero Season 2. We've been liking that so far. Also, there are going to be a lot of copyright protections on this. The show is going to be see-through. It's going to be chopped up. There's going to be a little bit of noise reduction on there because of the reasons that we stated before. We have to do that. Don't bother telling us not to do that, because we're going to keep doing that.
And again, we can't upload everything to Vimeo. Also, we're not going to do that because if we're just sending people with our YouTube video to another website away from our channel, a minute and a half, probably 2 minutes, like into our video, YouTube doesn't like that. YouTube likes to keep people on their platform, so they're not going to recommend us, so then our videos are just going to be wasted. All that said, check out our Patreon, check out our backup channel. We got early and exclusive reactions on our Patreon to movies, OVAs, all that cool stuff. You can check out the tiers there. We also got uncut OP reactions if you're into that. A lot of people like OP reactions. Any Patreon tier, including our $2 tier, gets access to full uncut OP reactions on our Patreon with no copyright protection, no blurriness, no noise reduction. It's all there. Go check out our Patreon if you're interested in that, patreon.com/boldcast. Check out our Teespring and our Instagram, and all the links in the description. Check out our Tower of God videos if you're into those, all the other stuff we got on our channel. With that, anything else you want to say before we get started?
That's it.
Alrighty, let's go. Alrighty.
I was expecting the Tower of God opening.
Yeah, after the Crunchyroll originals.
Yeah.
Oh, an island. Okay. Politics involved?
I guess so. It's ominous. Tsunami? Or what is that?
This doesn't strike me as a natural phenomenon. Is that a person falling? What's the cross? Is this Gleipnir? Did they just bomb them or some shit? What the fuck was that? So that was like a Chinese, I'm pretty sure. They had all the... Oh, fuck. That was his hand? Okay, OP time again. What the fuck was that about? Set up, stand up.
Whoa.
Oil painting? He looks the exact same. I wonder how much fantasy shit there is in this, because that guy just, like, crushed an island. What the fuck? Oh, shit. The animation is looking real rough. And I don't know if it's intentional or if they're saving budget. See, that was better. Really interesting soundtrack.
All Styles Martial Arts Tournament.
It's an MMA. It's like the UFC, but for high school. Another character? Whoever he's talking to?
I think so.
Oh, yeah. Right before prelims. He looks like he's got cauliflower ear. Like how fighters get. Do you know about that?
No.
Like you can see the top of his ear, it's all swollen. Oh, shit. She like really into muscled guys because she's like a fighter.
Nice.
Purse snatcher. He just... Oh my god, he just imagined all that? Or oh wait. Or was that his like ability, his latent ability? Or is he just really empathetic? He sounds so weird. Holy shit, he's keeping
really
up with a
fast.
fucking... Oh my god. Really nice blend of 3D and 2D here, by the way.
Oh my god. No!
Oh my god, that was the wrong time to take a sip of coffee. Oh shit. Hit and run. Did he just tell her all that? Or I can't tell what's like an ability and what's... They teamed up.
So I guess her sword is like a wooden sword?
Yeah, it's like a practice. It's like a kendo sword.
I was wondering why she was allowed to use that sword in this martial arts fight against just unarmed people.
Maybe she isn't. She probably is. Holy fuck! How's it not broken?
That sword is really strong. Oh!
So he's the tank. Holy fuck.
And then the normal people in this town just like, what?
Reactors? Any limitation on weapons used. Can I bring a gun? If I have a martial art practice that involves a gun, could I possibly, if I'm John Wick?
Well, at least they're not trying to actually kill each other. It's just to knock them out or get them to surrender. It's like an actual like a fight that people would watch and
can be streamed.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's actually Goku. He's just always hungry. I saw that chick.
That's kind of cool.
And everyone's okay with that? That seems kind of fucking... Webtoon and Crunchyroll sponsorship! Is that...
Wow, any wish granted.
Is that Bomb? At the end of Tower of God?
Are they all fighting at the same time?
It's a battle royale. So I guess...
Maybe it's gonna be like in Tower of God, like half the...
they're just narrowing it.
Mm-hmm.
Finding a reason to fight because it's so weird to fight. Just like, okay, and start. Holy fuck! Oh, they can they... He can just see it like that? What the fuck?
Whoa.
Is that part of like the fucking nanobots? Oh shit. Clearly did like some rotoscoping. They did like some rotoscoping with some of these fight moves. That was pretty good. Holy fuck!
Oh, this was all in the opening.
Yeah, these were in the opening. Yeah, I noticed when they started showing, like, characters, the frame count went up drastically. That was pretty dope.
Oh, because she doesn't have her glasses.
Yeah, I saw this clip. Bam.
I'm glad that they have that cage there
yeah,
so
no
the audience
shit.
doesn't get destroyed.
So they have a history?
Oh, he's the one who...
Holy shit! Oh my god!
Oh my god.
He caught it with his toe? Bam!
Uh-oh.
those pants are heavy. Are they like weighted or something?
It's Rock Lee over here.
For real? I'm so glad we waited. So real quick, before we talk about the episode, I like it, but I'm worried about this show. Did you get that same feeling? I'll say why.
Okay.
So they're selling it on fights, and I said beforehand, like, I'll be worried if, like, it goes down after episode 1. If this stays consistent, then I'm not worried. If they made the decision not to make the first not to pour like a lot of their budget into hooking people with the first episode, then I think it'll be fine. If this is like a consistent style of animation throughout. However, there were very few scenes that like wowed me in terms of animation. And if they're banging everything on animation, it's going to be really hard if like the visuals aren't super strong. The color's good, the art's good, the designs are good. But there were many times, especially in the long chase scene, and whenever there wasn't a character, you could like I said it during the reaction, but whenever there was a character fighting, the frame count went up. But when it was just at the start, all those guys, the model quality, like they were stretching a lot, which is fine. That's a technique. In terms of like between frames of animation, they'll like stretch an image to give it like motion and impact. And they did that a lot, and that's fine, but the frame count was, like, not that high. It wasn't as high as I would expect for, like, a really strong fight scene. And a lot of times I didn't really have a sense of place. I said during the reaction, like, where are we again? When it was, like, that one shot of, like, going around and flying around, and, like, somebody would kick, and then they'd, like, fly in the air, and then, whatever, spin around or something, and then they'd kick someone to the ground, and now we're facing down, and it's, like, they're trying to use, like, a dynamic camera, but they're not, like, the animation isn't keeping up with what they want to do, because they put more time and effort into when the characters were fighting to show off their abilities. As soon as the guy with the yellow, I think he was wearing a yellow hoodie or a yellow top of some sort, it was going from all these random dudes fighting, and then when it switched to the shot of the guy in the yellow top doing, like, the armbar, I think he was doing, then it went up, like, five more frames per second or something like that in terms of animation quality. So the difference is I won't be worried if this is consistent, but if they are doing what most anime does and pouring more resources into the first episode to hook people, and this is like their high point in terms of animation, then I'm worried. Like if they're like, okay, we gotta wow people with the animation and all our effects and everything we can do, we gotta hook them with the visuals so that they stay for later shit. If they're trying to do that, they didn't do that great of a job. But if this is the look that they're going to stay consistent with throughout, then I think they'll be fine. But and when there wasn't fights, the animation, especially like when it was showing all the people, like, oh, did you see God of Highschool? It was just a still frame, and then the person that was talking, like when those group of girls that were like on a phone or whatever, they were like, oh, did you see this? Or it's starting or whatever, and they're like looking at the phone. There's like 3. And the one that was closest to the camera, like facing away, like say if you're the one in the middle and then there's another girl here sort of further away, I'm the one talking, but I'm like facing away so then they don't have to like animate the mouth movement. They did that a lot, and that worries me in terms of animation, especially a show that's banking everything on the visuals and on the hype of its fights. It's worrisome when like the fights look okay. The colors are great. The music is on point. The story's moving decently well. It lingered a little bit with the chase scene. I felt like that took a little bit of time. They could have done the commercial break a little bit earlier if they wanted to do all that and have more of the fight or more of the impact there. The ending moved a little bit fast when they introduced that guy. Mm-hmm. It seems like if they had more time to like establish that whole scene, it's like, oh, commercial break, now we're here. And it's like, okay, that's great, because I felt like we were lagging a bit with the whole chase scene and all the introduction and everything. It wasn't terrible, but I felt like they could have got to it a little bit quicker, because I wasn't wow again. If I was wowed by the animation, and there were some shots that were good, like when it would do like the perspective and like the bike would get super long and the back wheel's like huge, but the front is like all small and everything. There were times where I was like, oh yeah, that looks dope, but like overall, I wasn't like super wowed. Like holy shit, this is a show that is gonna like wow me with some animation. I didn't feel that with that start thing. So if they shorten that a little bit, and then they like cut to Now we're in the arena. Okay, awesome. Now we're moving forward. And then, like, the guys, all the characters are, like, drawn kind of slop. I guess I don't want to, like, piss anyone off. Because, like, this is just real quick. I want to see more of this. Like, I liked the first episode. It's just, I'm worried because there's so many times in my anime watching career that there has been a great first episode with great animation, and then like episode 6 looks like absolute trash. So we'll see how this looks. But I'm gonna remain optimistic and open-minded as we go forward.
I guess I didn't have as much of an issue with like I don't pay attention to animation as much as Carson does. I notice it if it's really bad. Like in Naruto, I notice it a lot just because it's like such a drastic change. When it's good, it's really good, and when it's bad, it's really bad. Mm-hmm. In this, I thought it was pretty average, pretty normal. I wouldn't mind if the whole thing was like this. And
I wouldn't mind either.
And then maybe the like, all like the climax or whatever is like a step above or whatever. I have a feeling that's probably what's going to happen. It's, like, just going to be average. Because, like, even though it was a fight, and it was kind of a crazy fight, for a show that's about fighting, I imagine this fight is nowhere near as awesome as the fights that are to come. Mm-hmm. So, even though they could have just put more budget in and made all these random characters that we'll never see again look slightly better, I don't think that there's much of a point to that.
Yeah.
If it's
I agree.
Solid, yeah.
I agree.
And I don't know. I think that they'll keep it to a similar standard or improve it throughout. That's my opinion, just like looking at the show. As far as the pacing, this might have been another show that would have benefited from an hour-long first episode. We were just talking about this for ReZero. How in season 1 of ReZero they did an hour-long first episode, and that was really awesome because they could establish everything they needed to establish. And then season 2, the first 2 episodes felt like they should have just been one episode.
Yeah.
We haven't seen episode 2 of this yet, so it might not have worked like that, but I'm so glad, even though it might have not been the best for our, like, content on YouTube, but I'm glad that we basically saved 2 up and now can watch them back to back and really get a good read, because like we're having our opinions right now obviously, but I'm sure that after episode 2 it'll be like more solidified and we'll have a better idea of what we actually think about the show. The show is a lot more crazy than I originally thought in terms of like what's going on in the world of like that beginning scene of like that guy who I think he was like writing, not like a newspaper, but like he was like writing a thing exposing people. Mm-hmm. And then the other guy who, was he the prime minister or something?
Politician of some sort.
Yeah, politician, like did some crazy stuff and like smacked him, like...
Oh no, I think that guy was like the principal or something. The guy he was talking to on the phone was like giving these guys, like the guy in the chair is like...
the guy on the phone, or the guy...
You want me to explain it, or do you want me to...
Sure.
Okay. The guy on the beach with these guys, these are like expose, they're like journalists. Then the guy is like a politician sitting up in the chair and he's talking. He's like, oh, well, I'll have to cut your funding, blah, 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 blah. And then the other dude, I think, is involved with the whole God of Highschool program, if he's the principal of a school or if he's like a showrunner of some sort in this whole thing. He is like, okay, you're gonna fuck with me. I'll just crush you on this island. So then...
Can we just watch that first
sure.
little bit again? I just like to see it because I feel like it's gonna be important later as well.
Mr. Park. He said Park Sensei.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I had it wrong. They said... I was listening to the Japanese and I guess I just misheard it, because he said Park Sensei. And I thought that was referring to, because it's God of Highschool, I thought that he was, like, involved with the school in some way. But sensei can mean multiple things. So sensei can mean, like, doctor. It can mean, or a respected person. It doesn't just mean teacher. So maybe I just attributed it to something different. So he's, like, running for prime minister?
Yeah.
Or he's, like, a politician of some sort that is involved with the whole God of Highschool thing.
Or just
the world. Yeah, and then this guy is, like, another politician, who is giving him funding, I guess. Or maybe a lobbyist or something, giving him funding for his campaign, possibly.
Yeah.
Something like that. There's some political shit going on here, and then all these and then he's like working with the journalists who are like ready to fucking take him right down if they don't go along with what they want. So
yeah,
and then he just crushes them. So yeah,
I wasn't expecting this scene at the beginning sort of caught me off guard, because I was like, yeah, high school fighting politics.
I kind of expected it, because that's kind of common in stuff like this, where they can't just have it be fights.
Yeah.
Because like, what are fights? Like they're like you need something to justify like what's going on here, or some sort of greater thing that's happening. Because then once the tournament's over, then it's over. So there needs to be something like brewing beneath the surface, so that when the tournament arc comes to an end, this like comes to the surface, and now there's a greater goal or whatever. So that's like a common thing to start off with, like a cold open that like is plant the seed for later when everything goes down. So I don't know. That wasn't much of a surprise to me. It's just okay, politics, blah blah blah. There's some shit happening, some political shit that'll become relevant later, and people are scheming. But this guy Park Moojin doesn't seem to be taking any shit.
Yeah, I liked the sort of introductions of the characters you sort of got, how they would like work together, like those like three sort of main characters of like. You have, like, the sort of crazy guy who's, like... And, like, especially in the ending, you sort of saw that of, like, he's, like, the one, like, in the middle, like, like the Naruto kind of, like, let's all be friends. And then the other guy is just, like, I don't know about that. I'm just kind of doing my own thing here, but I guess I'll help you guys out.
Yeah. And
then she's just sort of, like, crazy and, like, she's, like, super badass, but also just, like, muscles. She's pretty funny. I like her already.
Yeah, I'm noticing, by the way, I want to look at the crowds again. One detail I liked, I mentioned it during the reaction, but the cauliflower ear and the reason they have red noses like that. I've seen one thing that I've heard is like people don't like the designs of all the main characters because of like the red button noses and the big giant ears. That's like, you get shit like that from fighting. So like by showing the red noses and the swollen ears, you know that guy's serious, or that person is serious. Like, even she has it. By the way, that's, like, it shows bomb randomly, it looks like. But you know the people that are serious and the people that aren't by their fucking ears. It's a good detail, because if you look at fighters' ears at the UFC or boxers or anybody who's serious, they get, like, if you're like, rolling around and doing jiu-jitsu with somebody, you like you get your ears roughed up and crinkled up, and or you get hit in the side of the head, and then a blood vessel breaks in your ear, and then it gets a little swollen, and then the swelling goes down slightly, but there's a little bit that stays in there, and it calcifies, and then that just keeps building up. Some people get it removed, and you'll see scars on their ear, and sometimes I've seen clips of fighters like getting it popped, and then their skin explodes. That was a UFC clip of somebody like getting punched right in the ear, and it explodes out the side. Because it just builds up and then hardens, but it's like still flesh, you know. So, yeah, that was a cool detail, and I could tell it's on purpose, because not everyone has these bright red noses and these swollen ears. Because the same thing can happen to your nose when like fighters get these like big wide noses. I don't have one because I'm not a fighter, but like if you notice people who train jiu-jitsu, they often have like big wide noses. It's because it's also like your ears, it's all cartilage, and there's no bone, so it gets like roughed around and pushed around, and then over time they get swollen, and then they go down, and then they get swollen, and they go down, but they don't fully go away. So then it sort of hardens up. It sort of adapts to the trauma, so to speak.
I want to talk about so they were like. The lady with the
blue hair?
The blue hair. Was it her, or was it someone else who was talking to the guy with the, like the sort of chin-length blonde hair? And she was like, oh, I heard...
No, it was a different guy.
Oh, it was a different guy. Okay.
What do you want to... What?
They were saying, like, oh, someone, I heard someone, like, beat up the person... Was it the administrator or whatever who brought them there? Because they get, like, picked, right?
Yeah, and then he looks up and he's like, yeah.
He's like, yeah, I want to have a rematch with that guy up there. Yeah. So it's our main character who straight up just fought the person.
The scout or whatever.
Yeah.
Scouting. Also, I love the reactor.
Yeah, that was
somebody's
good.
Streaming themselves reacting to the God of Highschool competition. That's hilarious. And I want to see it again. It looks like YouTube. MyTube. And they got like they made it look like YouTube and everything without actually stealing it. Because you can't show that. It's like stealing their intellectual property if you like show just a YouTube page and like a full-on produced thing like this. So they make like something that looks kind of like it and uses some of the same things, but it's not the YouTube branding or anything because they aren't working with them. But that's really funny. I thought that was really clever.
Yeah, and the Crunchyroll and Webtoon all
sponsorship
all
over the ring and all over like the red carpet area.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
That's actually, like, I don't know, that's kind of funny, because normally people would just make up some, like, random corporation to like, sponsor it, but it's like, you're already missing out on free real estate for your own advertising.
Well, it's not even them, because they didn't make this, they just produced it, so they are, in a way, sponsoring the God of High School competition. It's kind of literal, because they are just like they're just giving money to make this happen. They obviously aren't animating this. Studio Mappa is. They're just giving the money so that Studio Mappa can do this. So yeah, that is really clever. I kind of like that. But yeah, I guess in closing, we'll move on to the next one in a second. But my closing thoughts for the episode. First of all, that whole the boxer briefs thing was really funny. The fact that you expected it to be the tropey thing of like, oh, the big guy gets all shy now that you see his cute undies, but no, he's just like, oh, you want to see something else? And then turns around as an elephant trunk. He's like, I got size where it counts. And he's just like, you want to see? No, thanks. And then he lifts it back up. But it turns out it's not just a joke. He also doesn't want to take his weights off because he's got weights in his pants, apparently. So he doesn't want to, like, give him a power up.
I also don't know, and also I don't know if that was, like, part of his, like, he got his like arms are tied because he's so powerful. I wonder if he also has to wear weighted pants so he can't kick people
possibly
in half or something.
Possibly. Anyway, my closing thoughts. I'm worried about this show because for a show that's all about fights, it's all about animation and visuals, it did not wow me with the animation, and at some points the animation looked pretty bad. What I'm confused of is why it must be just the hype, because everyone was screaming Anime of the Year after this episode, what we just watched. I do not see this beating Kaguya. I do not see this even beating Tower of God, like, as just animation alone. Because if people are here for the hype, they're here for the animation. This didn't wow me. This didn't, like, blow me out of my seat like some other things we've seen. And if this is what the show is going to look like, I can deal with it as long as it's consistent, as long as it keeps this level. I have a suspicion that by like episode 5 or 7, it's going to take a dive. However, I'm optimistic that it won't do that, and I hope it doesn't, because if it can just stay like this and stay consistent and as smooth as it is now, and not take any dives in quality, then we're good. But also, in accordance with all that, the fact that the OP was nearly exclusively effects on still images and animation from the first episode, repurposed animation. They didn't do a lot of original stuff for the opening, and that the ending was all still frames, which, whatever, a lot of anime just have still frame endings. But those two things combined with the lackluster animation for anything that wasn't a character fight, or like still frames for just conversations and the pacing issues. I'm optimistic. I want this to be good. I'm excited to see where it goes in terms of the story and the plot lines, but I am wary that eventually it will take a dive in quality. That's where I'm at with the show. Where are you at with the show? Just closing thoughts.
I like it more than I thought that I would. I really liked...
I do too. I'll say that too.
I was hesitant. I'm not too huge on fights without like a reason for the fighting or like character motivations, but just the way that they laid it out and like the kid and the grandpa like scene in the beginning, it makes me hopeful that they will sort of expand on like the reasons as to why he fought the guy who was bringing him into a fight, why Amira uses a sword, or you know, like I don't know, I just have a little bit more hope because it seems to be narrowed down to like a pretty small starting cast, that I will get a bit more motivations and it's not just about the fighting. Like, that's a big draw. Yeah. But that the characters do seem, like, somewhat well-rounded, even just after the first episode, to the point that I'm excited and interested to know more of their stories.
Who's your favorite character so far? Mine's Mira.
I think so as well.
Alrighty. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Stay tuned tomorrow for our reaction to episode 2. We're going to watch that right now. Hit subscribe if you want to see that for tomorrow. And stay tuned after this for the live stream that's coming up. That's coming around this time, around when this goes up. I don't know. Check our channel. We're going to be live streaming today. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one. I'm Carson.
I'm Lindsay.
Bye-bye. And thank you so much to all of our patrons, especially those in the Student Council: Zenge,
Rising 80,
John Ortega,
Nicholas Teo,
Aurora,
Iwan Polgar,
Lewis,
Yeet,
Gentleman,
Christian Ave,
Mozart Waddle,
Nelson Barbosa,
Jan Carlisle Vincent,
Kage Uzumaki,
Xavier Rhodes,
Chao Lao,
Brian,
Haruto Yuzuki.
Handicap Bankai. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next one.